After editing the segments, the next step should be tonal balance. Tonal balance. Determining if a recorded instrument needs its low, middle or high frequencies and subbands within those bands adjusted. For example, if I make my voice deliberately seem unclear or muddy, I'm going to go close to the mic. So now we have proximity effect and there's a lot of bass in my voice. So if you were dealing with a vocal recording or spoken voice that had this enunciated low frequency, first you need to think, how can I make that more clear, or what is the issue? And if you are dealing with a vocal recording or spoken voice with this enunciated bass, the first thing might be to consider reducing the low frequency rather than increasing the high frequency. So consider your instrument. Is it a high pitched instrument such as piccolo, soprano, saxophone, flute, violin? Here we have soprano saxophone. So when you listen to that instrument, just by hearing, think about the sound in terms of spectrum, low, middle, high frequencies. How does that sound relate to you? Well, the soprano saxophone has very little content in the low range, in the low spectrum. And as a precaution, what I like to do with soprano saxophone is use the high pass filter. It allows high frequencies to pass through, and frequencies below the point that I select here, 100 Hertz, will be removed. So if I bypass this, now with the filter, there's no noticeable change. The reason I do this is because in the studio there may be air conditioning. If you're listening to my voice, I have the air conditioning running in this room. It's extremely hot here in Hong Kong. So if there's unwanted low frequency rumble, traffic, train, noise that you may not audibly be able to hear yourself, potentially in the studio, that will be greatly amplified. So instruments that do not have content in the low range, sub-bass, bass range, remove them because it may save you issues later. Now, if I was dealing with spoken voice or a singer's voice that had this enunciated bass, you could consider using a high-pass filter. You might want to not necessarily have such a sharp slope to the curve like I have. So if I was applying this high-pass filter on voice, I might have a setting like that and raise the frequency filter point here. That's one method. You might like to set a low frequency with a sharp slew rate and then engage a shell VQ. So if I bypass the high pass filter and apply the shell VQ, you might want to, and I'm talking about if you were using a directional mic that was very close to the instrument causing a bass increase, you may want to use the shell VQ. I'm reducing the low frequency, so the proximity effect is in the low range within the bass area and below, and combine that with a filter and adjust the parameters accordingly. Remember, always listen to the original sound, then to the applied EQ or process that you're thinking of applying. Then go back to the same point in time, listen to the original, listen to the original, bypass whatever process you're doing, and remember, listen only for a few seconds. Think about the original sound. Think about what may need to be done to improve that quality of tone. Then apply your process. Stop, think about the sound. Has it improved it? Yes, no, maybe. Maybe I need to adjust something slightly. Go back to the original from the same point. Think about the sound, apply your treatment, adjust it maybe if you like. Go back to the original sound. Apply your treatment. So repeat these steps. If you like, it's like a cyclical loop listening exercise: original, playback from the same point, processed, think, listen, listen, think, and so forth. It may seem repetitive, but it's really important. In playing back from the same point in time and playing back the original, it helps prevent you losing your reference. Psychologically, we can lose our reference. If we kept playing through, doing whatever with the EQ, messing around with the spectrum, and doing all this kind of thing, what happens is psychologically we lose the reference. We forget what the original instrument sounded like.